Welcome to episode 7 of the Xbox Dadcast. On this week's show, we will have a new segment, the Xbox Gamepass review of the week, Scorn's exclusivity chatter. There is a Grounded demo coming from Obsidian, Gamepass success and some sweet numbers, next-gen GPUs and how they're going to impact the new systems, and some other stuff. This is a podcast about the Xbox, the upcoming Series X, from the eyes of a casual gaming dad and lifelong gamer. I am Bon Diesel, and I am a Xbox fanboy, PC casual, Division 2 podcaster, husband to a lovely wife, and father to an adorable daughter. Please rate this podcast on whatever platform you are listening to it on, and subscribe, pretty please. Share it with any of your friends on Twitter or any other places where some people may enjoy it. My goal is 100 listens a week. We're getting there. Please help me. I do want to thank this month's Patreon supporters: Hassan, Christian, Darren, Dale, Justin, Jimmy, Tim, PK, and DJ. If you'd like to support this podcast and my other content, please check out patreon.com/theechocast. If you're curious, the Echocast is my Division podcast. I'm going to change my Patreon to just Bon Diesel, I think, since I have 2 things I'm doing now. I'll let you know. Until then, if you're curious, check out that place. Okay, so first up is some news and such. The first story I ran across was on Forbes, is why Scorn is exclusive to the Xbox. It's an interesting article. Go check it out yourself if you want every single detail. I thought it was going to be this like hit piece on the PlayStation where it's like, it's because they can't. No, it's not. The PlayStation is going to be perfectly capable, just like anything else will be. But basically what they were saying is it was the better platform for them to move forward with. But it was mostly talking about how the old gen systems just simply couldn't do the things that they wanted to with their game. There is demo footage of Scorn from like 2017 out there if you really want to see it. To me, at the time, it looks like it was just kind of a basic, kind of weird shooter. I suspect maybe they've stepped it up since then. It doesn't really seem to be like pushing boundaries from what I can tell. But I'm an idiot, so who knows? But I think this article, though, what I liked about it is that it's really kind of pointing out that idea of, you know, these new systems, especially once games are made exclusively for them. There's going to be things that game developers have had to cut and things that they've wanted to do but can't on the current gen systems that they're going to be able to do now. Now, one thing I have thought of, it's going to be interesting, is the PlayStation exclusives, for the most part, don't come to PC. It sounds like they may start doing that a little bit. I'll believe it when I see it. I think Horizon Zero Dawn is confirmed, maybe. Same as the walking simulator with Redis. I can't remember. You can yell at me about it somewhere if you want in the YouTube comments where most people do. But what I'm curious about is with the Xbox Series X and whatever else comes out after that, Xbox has such a big push on like Xbox and PC. And what's going to happen is the Series X is going to come out. They're going to make exclusives for the X. And every single X is going to have the same GPU, the same CPU, and the same SSD. And even add-on SSDs will be the same kind. So they know exactly what every single one is like. The constant problem for makers of PC games is the fact that people have such different configurations, and there may be some people who have an SSD and even fewer people who use an M.2 and even fewer people who have an M.2 NVMe drive. If you're not super aware, my very layman's understanding of this is that the M.2 NVMe SSDs are super fast. Then you have the M.2 SSDs. They both go in the same little tiny slot on the motherboard. I have an M.2, but not an NVMe. So mine's like the little bit less fast. I mean, it's still ridiculous. And then you have regular SSDs that are solid state drives that aren't connected directly. The way this M.2 works, as far as I'm aware, you can feel free to correct me, is that instead of going through, it basically has a direct channel to the CPU, or a faster channel than a regular hard drive does, which makes it faster. The Xbox Series X SSDs, even the extra one you plug in, are both going, they're going to have that. And I'm sure the PlayStation 5 add-on drive will as well. But what's going to be interesting is that when the Xbox Game Studios or any other third party starts making games only for the Series X, assuming all of that tech, are we actually going to run into a situation where their consideration for the PC players may actually dumb down the games? Because not every PC player has an M.2 NVMe. Even, a few more have M.2s. A lot more probably have SSDs. And then there's probably still a lot of people with hard drives, with HDDs, the actual disk. And even a 7200 RPM HDD is still relatively slow. My personal setup, I have a 2700 AMD processor, 32 gigs of 3000 hertz RAM, DDR4, a GTX 1070 Ti, a 250 gig Samsung M.2 drive, and a 3 terabyte Seagate 7200 RPM HDD. That's where all of like the footage for my podcast and all the recording, all the extra crap, all my games go on the M.2. But what's funny about that is that I could, if I installed a game on my HDD, in theory, a game that's optimized for the Series X, it shouldn't let me do that on my HDD because it's games that are only going to be on these new systems are going to assume an SSD. So I'm really curious to how, especially Xbox is going to handle that. But even whatever titles, PlayStation 5 exclusives, whatever titles they have come to PC eventually, I'm curious to if they're going to enforce some rule like, hey, by the way, one of the requirements to put this game on your PC is at least an SSD. Recommending an M.2 and ideally an M.2 NVMe like the Series X has. So I'm definitely curious about that. That article about Scorn, obviously I just went on a rant, but that article really got my brain kind of going like, holy crap, could we actually run into a situation where there could be PC players who hold back, who hold back the Xbox. Okay. And with the second story, we have that news that there will be a Grounded playable demo in June. This comes from Windows Central. Grounded is one of the game Xbox studio games by Obsidian, very well known for some of their previous projects. The playable demo will go through June 9th through the 14th. And you will need to use the Xbox Game Preview system. So you need to just look that up. I could try to explain it, but I wouldn't do a very good job. So I suggest checking that out. There is, I played Vigor on this preview system before, and it worked great. Vigor, a pretty cool game that you should check out if you're on Xbox. You will get bored with it fairly quickly. At least I did, but it's still worth checking out. But that's exciting. Grounded to me is a game that like is slowly, after the last trailer, it seems like it's going to be this thing where it's kind of like sort of like the original Fortnite, where you built a base to fight off zombies that were incoming. And when you do that, of course, in this case, it's going to be bugs and stuff like that. But at the end of the trailer, it had some some hint or something that there's like a corporation involved, and that there's more to the story, because as far as I know, in Grounded, you just wake up and you're a kid who's been shrunk, and you need to find out why. And I assume try to become unshrunk, or geshrunken. So the kind of throwing in kind of that sci-fi element. I mean, it's Obsidian, so it's probably going to have like a cool story. My guess is it's going to have like dialogue options and things like that. I'm actually digging that game a lot more than I was when I first heard of it. And I suspect, I keep hearing about how these big studios like Obsidian will have their main game that they're working on, and then they'll have like a side game where they'll throw a lot of like new employees on it to kind of get their sea legs and teach them like, hey, this is how we make games. I suspect Grounded is kind of that type of thing, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad game or even like a AA type game. I'm really starting to think that it may be one of those games that kind of surprises people. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, if you're part of the preview program, look it up if you want to learn more about it. Check it out. I think it's going to be fun. I'll definitely be playing it, and I assume we can stream it. I'll need to look it up, but hopefully the stream is up and going by then, and I can check it out. The third story this week comes from Business Insider, and it's talking about how Xbox Game Pass is 5 times more popular than PlayStation Now. So the straight numbers that they gave us is that Xbox is reporting 10 plus million Game Pass users, paid users. We'll touch on that in a moment. There's a bit of an asterisk there compared to the reported 2.2 million PS Now users. Okay, so obviously I'm an Xbox fan. I'm also not really one who's looking here to be just dunking on people and stuff. These numbers have more to them, right? Where it's impressive is that Game Pass is a paid subscription program that provides a lot of really cool games, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you have this situation where there's over 100 million PlayStation 4s have been sold. So there's in theory 100 million people in their user base. There's more, obviously, and in only 50-ish, maybe 60 million Xboxes out there, Xbox Ones. So it's kind of depends on where you come from, right? You could say, wow, that's a lot. That's a large percentage of the Xbox owners who have this program, and that is a thing to brag about. That's awesome. You could also look at it like, oh man, the PlayStation 1 must suck because almost none of their people have it. Percentage wise, it's 2.2%, as opposed to the 20% that Xbox Game Pass has. But here's the thing. One, Sony's probably not sweating it too hard right now, at least. I'm sure they would like PS Now to be a bigger deal. But PS Now, my impression, doesn't have a ton of games. I thought PS Now at one point, you had to stream the games. You couldn't even download them and then play them right off your system. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And the other big thing is that they don't release their first party releases immediately like Game Pass does. And I don't know if PS Now has ever done a like $1 sale forever. Like I have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and the way I did it was there was a deal where you could pay, it was like $1 or $5 or something, and it would make Game Pass last as long as your current Xbox subscription. So I went and bought 1 or 2 years of Xbox Live and then used that deal. And as far as I can tell, I have Game Pass Ultimate for like 2 years for like $1. So these numbers are a bit skewed, right? It is at least worth mentioning that 10 million is really impressive, and it's a really good, it's a good thing for Xbox. But there is a point of mentioning, like, I would be curious to how many of those people are paying the full price for for Game Pass and what percentage have like a really good deal, like myself. I bet it's like 75 or 80% of people are paying less than the full rate, which is fine. I think Game Pass is really, really good for indie games. And I think it's good for the first parties exposure wise, like Gears of War 5, for all intents and purposes, a good game a good AAA game from a big studio. You could play it the moment it came out on Game Pass. Of course you would. The Outer Worlds. Now that was a cross-platform game, but I believe that's Obsidian, who is now, I assume the Outer Worlds 2 is going to be an exclusive to Xbox and PC. I love that. That's one of my favorite games of the year or of last year. I can't remember when it came out now, but and I got to play that just for the buck or whatever I paid. So I think it is good to brag about these numbers. Having 20% of the people who bought your system using this really awesome customer-centric system, very impressive. And here's my tangent I'll go on. I don't think the Xbox Series X is going to be $399. I think it's going to be $499, and I think that's fine if it comes with 1 year of Xbox Live and 1 year of Game Pass Ultimate in the box. You load it up, you get your year of Live, and you get your year of Ultimate right there. Every single person who buys an Xbox, boom, here's Halo Infinite in 4K 60 frames. Boom, every single person. I mean, because right there, you're talking about, say it is a $500 system. You're talking about $120 worth of product. Actually, you're talking technically about, it's 60 for the game, I think 60 for the year of Live, and at least, I don't know, I think Game Pass is supposed to be what, like $100 a month? Or $100 a month, $10 a month, so 100. So you're talking about, $200+ worth of stuff that comes with the system. Therefore, if you do some silly math, you're getting your Xbox for $280, right? I think if they do the Xbox for $399, that's a whole different. That makes it probably insane. That's why I think it's gonna be $500. But I think it's gonna be $500 with Game Pass and Ultimate and Live for a whole year. If they do that, that is a big shot across the bow. And if they can, like I said in the previous episode, if they can announce like 2 or 3 really cool exclusives that may not be coming at launch, but are coming soon, Hellblade 2, maybe some Fable reboot, Forza, some other games that are like kind of exciting, Everwild, things like that. That means that anyone who buys their Series X is going to get to play all of those games in the first year for free, essentially, because you'll already have it paid for. I think a $500 Series X with Game Pass Ultimate and a year of Live is a deal that it would at least make even Sony people think like, man, maybe I should get an Xbox this year and get a PS5, because they're always going to buy it, and that's fine. So I don't know, exciting stuff. I am happy to see Game Pass doing so well. I think it's game subscriptions done right, where we've seen some of the publishers and stuff maybe not do it so well, at least in my opinion. And then the final story of this segment, the OG Xbox source code leaked, as well as some other Microsoft systems. This was from The Verge. I read through it a bit. So basically, it sounds like this doesn't really hurt anything. There's almost no chance that the current Xbox OS uses anything that's left over from the OG Xbox. The one thing I did see was some thought that maybe like emulation may work better, but apparently there's been this something similar going around for quite a while, so it may not even help that world so much, but it's just kind of cool. It's just kind of interesting. I wonder if anyone is going to find some kind of even just some kind of interesting information buried in that source code. I suspect if they do, we'll hear about it sooner than later. I just really hope they don't find something very damaging. That would suck, but we'll have to wait and see, won't we? And that's what I have for the news and rumors. So let's hit this mid-roll real quick, and then we will go from there. Okay, so in the speculation and opinion section of the show, the first topic I wanted to chat about is the upcoming Nvidia, I think, 3000 series of GPUs on their way. So the most recently, they've had GPUs like the 2080 Super, 1070 Super, or 2070 Super. That's actually what I'm looking to get. And now I'm definitely going to wait, because if these 3000 series come out, the old ones will get at least a little bit cheaper. And I've already seen, at least from like the PCMR or the PC Master Race folks, of saying like, look, these 3000 GPUs come out, these new consoles are sunk before they even come out. I think that's kind of a misunderstanding of why people buy consoles. I don't think anyone is buying consoles to be like the cutting edge. Now, seeing that the Series X GPU and CPU combo, or specifically the GPU, is on par, if not a hair more impressive than the 2080. I think just the regular 2080. I don't think it's faster than the Super. But even the 2080, that's very impressive. Go look up a 2080 right now. I believe they're more than the Xbox Series X is even going to cost. So, or they're at least close. I've been looking for a new GPU for my PC, and I cannot afford them, even the lower level ones. So, for PC gamers, for people who are willing to spend $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 on the GPU, these 3000 series ones are going to be awesome. In my opinion, you should never get anything lower than like the 70 of whatever the current gen of GPU is. I don't think you should get the 1050 or the 2050 or the 2060. I'm sure someone will argue with me and tell me they're just fine. In my personal opinion, for your bang for your buck, the 2070 is the very least that you should be buying at this point. I have a 1070 Ti, and even the 2070, I kind of personally I need to do at least a 10, 15, even 20% jump in capability to justify spending $300, $400, $500 on something. And right now I don't think that's even there. So, I think the fact that these 3000 series GPUs are going to be coming is great for the people who are going to be able to afford them. If it's going to put PCs back on top, as if they wouldn't be anyways, but just bear with me. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to hurt the console players, because I think most people who are going to spend $400 or $500 on a console are not the type of people who are going to be spending $1,000 or $1,500 on a GPU. You can tell me all day that it's better to spend $500 on a self-made PC than an Xbox or PlayStation. I disagree. As someone who has built my own systems multiple times, the only way those numbers work is basically if you get a super awesome deal on some very good things. If you steal Windows or get one of the shady ass codes on eBay, I don't know anything about it. Just what I've heard. That number is only really good, especially these new systems. I mean, I'm genuinely really excited for even the PS5, but especially the Series X, and where it's going to stand against comparable PCs for at least a couple of years. It's worth noticing that the Series X and even the PS5 are going to be as close to the really good PCs as any console has ever been at launch. And that's really exciting. Like the fact that the CPU is only, from last year. Now, I'm sure AMD and Intel, I think Intel just put out some new CPUs. I'm sure AMD is going to have their new 7, nanometer or whatever it is, systems next year, and then people can dunk on the systems. But until then, I think people should be really excited for both PC and the console communities. Let's see here. We did get news that there's going to be 2 more Summer Game Fest events, at least. I'm sure there's probably going to be a lot more than that. But we got confirmation of an event on June 22nd and July 20th. Keeley basically said that these are going to be a mix of indie and AAA announcements and studios that will be involved, which is super exciting. I think hopefully there's some Xbox stuff in there. I still think that if you're watching right now, I finally turned on the actual Xbox footage, not my Division 2 background. I think that show a couple weeks ago got dogged a lot more than it should have. I was also disappointed with it. I didn't think it was all that exciting, but I still think it was better than it was given credit for. And so what looks like is going to happen is in just game to me, maybe that's unknown that you really liked, and that you would like me to play, because I haven't played too many of them. I've kind of got my fairly small number of games I enjoy. So either on Twitter or on YouTube or somewhere, say, hey, check out this Gamepass game. I'll download it. I'll play it for at least a couple hours, and then I'll give you my review of it. So to start it off, I'm going to go biased and throw out a game that's personally very dear to me. It's State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition. So I played a ton of State of Decay 1, and as much of a buggy mess as that game was, I was just so addicted to it. So then when I saw that State of Decay 2 was coming, and then I saw that Undead Labs got purchased to become an Xbox studio, I was super pumped, because I have full faith that that studio with a ton of money and support can put out a really great AAA game if they're given time and money. State of Decay 2 came out, I want to say it was a year, 2 years ago now, and I played it a decent amount when it came out, but it was kind of a buggy mess again. And so in the last month, they released what's called the Juggernaut Edition. So they've done a bunch of updates. They've added a ton of content. They've cleaned the game up a ton. It plays really well. So if I had to give you the quick summary of what State of Decay 2 is, I would say it's a survival base building game that's kind of like the shooting and movement honestly kind of reminds me of Division 2. If you're listening to this, you have probably heard of me through that community. It has Division 2 vibes, but with zombies. It's got kind of a cartoony aesthetic, but I still think the game looks nice. But it's brutal. It has a big focus on hand-to-hand combat with the zombies, especially. And so basically, you build a base. You have people living there with you that you can use any of them to complete tasks in the world, clearing out houses, clearing out infestations. These big monster zombies you have to take out. You need to collect food and medical supplies and ammunition and guns and weapons, and different things to upgrade your base. It's an RPG in the sense that each of your characters has skills that you can upgrade. And then when you max out their skills, you can specialize them and make them really useful. The game is insane. It's a very big game. You interact with NPCs. You can play co-op, but these NPCs, that you can ally with them and trade with them. They'll ask you to save people from their community if they get lost or whatever, and then you'll get rewarded for doing that. They can also steal your stuff from your base, and you can go confront them and either intimidate them and get them to leave, or fight them and kill them. So it's kind of got that Walking Dead vibe for sure. And then there's also there's a mechanic where, say there's a community of 4 people and they're kind of shady and they steal some of your supplies from your base. Well, you can go confront them and say, hey, and they'll be like, get out of here. We don't want you here. Get out of here. And you can talk to them, and there's dialogue options, and you can say, hey, drop everything you stole from us and get out of town, and we'll have no problems. And if you have the right character with the right skills, they'll do it. They'll drop the stuff they stole and they'll run away. Or you can say, we're going to take it off your body, and they'll go hostile and you can kill them. And there's this weird mechanic. It doesn't always happen, but it can. Say there's 3 of them and you kill 2, the third one will give up and they'll throw their hands up and they'll go where you can't kill them anymore. And they'll surrender, and you can talk to them and you can say, whatever, just drop what you have and run. I'll let you live. Or you can execute them and you can murder them and take everything they have. It's just those moments. And then as you outgrow bases, you move to bigger and better bases. You're always managing you have various sources of resources that just happen automatically, but you have to kind of manage them. And it's really hard to make your base like completely sufficient where you're never running out of anything. But really, really good people with the right recruit, because you can recruit people to your colony. You start off with 3 normally, and there's people who have 11, 12, 13 people in some of their communities. It's a cool game. So if you have Game Pass on PC or Xbox, I believe it's cross-play. So if you're on your Xbox, if you're sitting in your living room, you can play it. And then, if you have to stop playing, you can shut it down and then go to your gaming room and jump on your gaming PC and play it on your PC, your same community. It's really cool. It's a very, very cool game. It's not perfect. It's still a little bit buggy, but it's just such a big game. And my honest way of playing it is I really enjoy starting communities. I have noticed that once I get 10, 15 hours into a community, into the end game, quote unquote, I start to get kind of bored. And it gets pretty grindy at that point. So I tend to just delete that community and start a new one. Because once you start having like really good guns and equipment and you're able to build everything you need, and then it kind of gets like you're almost like too powerful. I kind of enjoy deleting those communities and starting over. But there is a way to finish the game. Each of the characters you have to designate one of them as the leader of your community, and then they have like a mission that you slowly complete through your playthrough. There is just kind of a free play that still has some story to it, but then there's a mode it's a story. You still do a lot of the same things, but there is a story to it and you can finish it. And then you can actually import your characters from that to an open play. It's kind of cool. And then there's like a survival mode where you're not meant to play it for a long time. It's like a horde mode. I played it a few times. It's cool, but for me, I like the building the community and stuff. So yeah, so there it is. There's my first Game Pass game review of the week. State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition is on Game Pass. I highly suggest checking it out. Definitely play through the tutorial. There's a lot of systems that you need to learn. Definitely look up stuff online about it. There's hints about what are the best ways to build and things like that. Your bases. There's a lot of really good hints out there, especially to start off. But yeah, I 100%. If I had to honestly rate this game, I'd give it like an 8.5 out of 10. So maybe we'll rate these games. I'm still figuring this thing out. So. And if you play it, let me know what you think. I'm genuinely curious, especially the Juggernaut Edition. If you played it back when it came out, check it out again. You may like it more, or maybe you won't. Either way, let me know. And with that, we're going to wrap this show up. Please take a moment to rate the podcast on whatever platform you use to listen to the show. If you want to support the podcast or my other content, please check out patreon.com/TheEchoCast. I am Bon Diesel on Twitch, where I am trying to start streaming again. I'm also at Bon Diesel on Twitter or at Xbox Dadcast if you don't want to hear all of my personal opinions. And that's what I have. So until the next time we meet on here, be good and game on.